Okay, had a bit of a haircut today. Went to a shop just across the street, just down the street, and asked for a haircut. Went for a bit of a fade kind of thing. I think it looks alright. When the guy styled it, the way he styled it was sort of, I don't know, he made me look like a really old man. But well, I've sort of adapted the styling in a way. I think that looks alright. Yeah. So I've not been particularly efficient today. Sadly to report. I've What did I do? What did I do? What did I do in the morning? There's something I did in the morning. Well, I got a haircut and went for a run and did shoulder exercises because I only got halfway through my shoulder exercise yesterday. And then I went shopping. Today was actually the first day I've walked around in a t-shirt and shorts in London just because it's been cold up to now. So I went shopping. I bought trainers. That's right, because I've been having problems with my trainers. They're slightly too big and they're slightly too they're very flimsy in a way. They're a new Adidas Ultra Boost thing, but the cage, something I don't know, it doesn't keep my feet locked into the shoe. It's like almost like a sock that's loose. It just my feet slide around like sideways in it. Like the material is very stretchy, I guess. And so when I was playing tennis a couple of weeks back, I ended up my whole foot ended up twisting, like the shoe ended up twisting around my foot just because it's so stretchy. So I've got a new pair of trainers from Puma, which I think they should be better. They should feel tighter. They feel more solid. So hopefully those work out well, and we can play tennis this weekend or something. And I bought a cap as well because I was sort of thinking I might want to try and work out how to play golf next weekend. So I might try to do that. And then I went further shopping. So bought some chicken and some soup and canned soup, and came back. And then what did I do? There's something in between that I was doing, wasn't there? I can't remember. Oh, I spoke to the old Irishman again. On the way back from my run, I bumped into him and just said hello. I don't think he remembered me, but he talked to me anyway. And yeah, that was essentially my day. Now I'm sort of looking at. So I've listened to this guy on YouTube called Samuel Leeds, and he's been quite successful in property. And the way he started out, I believe, is not by necessarily just buying property outright and then holding it for the long term, but he sort of, I think he did stuff like deal sourcing, which is where you find sort of investments that that suit specific investors. So you have a pool of investors. Your job is to connect these investors to deals, and you're essentially actually doing almost a specialized real estate agent business. So I think he started off like that, and then he also did some pretty interesting things. I think the only two things that he really did are lease option agreements, which is where you agree to buy a property in the future. It's basically like an options contract. You buy a contract to give yourself the option to purchase it in the future. But what's interesting is actually in these contracts, under these agreements that he does, he ends up taking over control over the property and rents them out and manages it. And the owner, for the period between the contract coming into fruition and the strike date in the future, which is usually 5 to 7 years, they are basically let loose. And in a way, it's almost like having a full-time tenant without the managing costs. So what you end up doing as the person who purchases the contract, the option, agreement is you're basically doing the management, finding tenants, and taking care of all, I don't know, maintenance that has to be done, and you pay the owners basically a rent, which essentially covers their, maybe possibly a bit of an investment, but also covers their mortgage fees. So he did that, lease option agreements, and then he's also done another thing where you basically lever up a lot, which is a bit like quite risky. You lever up a lot, put a small down payment into a flat, like a house, and then you convert it by adding an extra bedroom and cleaning it up, and basically you add value to a house that, let's say you bought for 50k, you put in, I don't know, 20k of maintenance, increase the value, and hopefully sell it for maybe something like 100k. So, and then you do a thing called refinancing, which is where you essentially, I actually struggle to understand it. I keep having to go through the concept again of refinancing. Like I struggle to understand what's going on here. So the property value has increased. You take a new loan on the property, which is somehow supposed to pay off the previous loan you had. I don't know, I'll have to think about this one again. But basically, he does that, and he did that, and has made money. And now he does construction, development projects, so much bigger. So I'm just looking at Rightmove at the moment. So one thing that he sort of strategy recommends, especially with lease option agreements, is finding discouraged, tired sellers of houses who've been trying to sell forever, and especially those who bought houses around the previous housing bubble around 2007, 2008, at the top of the housing market. Because after that there was a crash, and then house prices have gradually increased again after that. So there are some sellers who are at the moment trying to sell their house at maybe break even, maybe just below break even, and for those people, often trying to convince them to get into a lease option agreement because it's beneficial in that they get rent from that for for I don't know, 5 or so years, and eventually sell it on at a pre-agreed price. That's a deal that works both well for both parties, especially if they're tired of just managing the property and they don't want anything more to do with it. So yeah, I'm just looking at Rightmove and trying to see, trying to see if there are any possibilities. But I've realised I don't know anything about property. I don't know how to value these things. It's just, I see valuations in the hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it just I'm thinking, okay, why is this any more valuable than this? So, like for example, I'm looking at one which has 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. That's 379. The other one is 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. That's 443. So why is that? Presumably that one's more expensive because it's in a nicer area. Maybe the flat itself is nicer. It has to be. It would have to be considerably nicer, considering the other bedroom has 2, but the other flat has 2 bedrooms and this one has 1. It's a tough one. And actually, I remember him, Samuel Leeds, saying something about how in London it's quite difficult to do his strategies because one of the things he relies on is creating another bedroom and creating value, and that I don't really understand any of this, but that somehow this thing called the housing of multiple occupation comes in, housing multiple occupation, I don't know, and occupants, and yeah, maybe that's not a good thing to, if I don't have that option to do in London, then that's not a good thing to try to get myself involved in otherwise. But I don't know, it's just I'm completely lost with this stuff, so maybe I really should not be doing anything with property. We shall see. I think I'll go, so he's got a podcast where he's got a recording of his book, audiobook, on Spotify. I think I'm going to just try and take notes from that now, and then try to apply strategies, so we shall see.